mosquitoes. So first, my whole family is creative. They know how to edit light. I don't know what you call it, backdrop, and anyway, make anything that I would do look infinitely better, but I'm just kind of doing this by myself, so all the things that are wrong with it are just going to be wrong with it. I might have a little more color on my lips today because I had to go by our seniors in high school to take him his lunch because he forgot it, take it up to Miss Kay, who runs the entire school and is one of the most awesome people I've ever met. She and I agreed that she'd keep an eye on him and his new girlfriend because, you know, girls have girl things that can turn boys' heads, you know, just right around. And he's got a big meet this afternoon, cross country, and he wants to make this time. And, well, hey, I'm just being silly. We're not really stalking him. But she did say she'd look up this girl in the database at the school for me, so I feel good about that. Okay, pragmatic things that have been on my mind about this Lewy body dementia that my dad has. It's seemingly rapidly coming to a close that I don't see a lot of other people talking about. Occur in moments like this morning. I usually wake up to texts or phone calls from my mom, and this morning she had finally upped his dose of morphine, which is a new medicine right now. It's one of those it's definitely an end-of-life medication for pain, and in my dad's case, it's not as much nerve pain, although there is that, but it's agitation and restlessness, which comes more and more and more towards the end of life, if you don't know that. And you treat it like pain because it is painful for your loved one. They can't stay still, and my dad's always searching for things in his hands, and then he starts a lot of questions that he can't finish, and that frustrates him to no end. And maybe he'll hit his head with his hands because, again, he's in that percentage of people who understand that he has dementia, and it just tears him up that he knows that he can't get words out. So last night was the first full milligram or milliliter, I think it's his drops he's taken. She gave him at bedtime, which would have been about 7 because he can't stay up later than that. And at, what time is it? It's noon now, so as of 11 o'clock though, it's Eastern Standard. He was still asleep, and that's very disconcerting for her because, you know, the closer to the end of life, the more sleep there is, and it's often because of the medication you have to give for pain and agitation and restlessness, which you don't want them to have, but when they're sleeping all the time, I mean, you just know that's close. The other things that are happening are that his body, the skin, the integrity of the skin breaks down, if you don't know. So wounds are opening up on his heels as they're swelling. The fluids are leaving the body. Off-putting, they call it. Things his body doesn't need, it's getting rid of, and it doesn't need a lot as it's going through the process. An old friend of mine told me he found a word called bardo, B-A-R-D-O. He said it means between death and rebirth, and I'm really clinging to that word. I think it's awesome. I think that's exactly where my dad is. He's in death, and it is no different than a baby being born, but it's on this other side. He is in death, and he is struggling to be reborn, just like a baby coming from his mother's womb. And there's pain, and there's labor contractions and work. There are fluids. It's messy. There are risks. A baby's body will come from a mottled blue-gray to bright pink, and breathe in all that air to start life. your loved one's body, my dad's body, is going from pink to mottled blue and gray, losing oxygen perfusion. So it's just the opposite. He's in death, and he will go to a rebirth. That's my faith. I don't know what that body will look like, but it won't be this, and he won't be suffering, and there'll be no struggle. But these wounds open up in the skin because the skin breaks down and the fluids are gathering to be off-put, and then they just burst open. It's not blood. It's stuff like it's blood plasma. It's cell waste. It's unsettling. It's in his urine. I know that's not like really fun, but if you're going through this and somebody's not explaining it to you, it's even more frightening. You don't know what it is. It scares my mom to death because she sees it as just essences of him leaving, and that's what it feels like. She told me the first time she saw this on his sheets in the morning, and she thought it was a urinary tract infection because of the tinge of red, and when our home hospice nurse explained that's not what it is. It's this cell waste and blood plasma and things that the body is getting rid of. I mean, her face melted, and she just told me she just wanted to put it back in his body. And it's silly what makes you cry. Jeez. Less eating, more sleeping. Those are really typical. What else is he going through? Shutting down more. Even if he's awake, he'll close his eyes and shut down. Even his loved ones, even us, his daughters, favorite friends, can be too much stimulus. It's not personal. His body's protecting him as it goes through this process. And I think I have to liken it. Well, I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and I have 4 children, so I have a lot of experience there. And when they're little, when babies are newborns, if they're in a lot of pain, they can just go to sleep and block it out. That's their first response. For a long time, doctors and parents thought that meant they're not in pain. Well, they're sleeping. It may mean they're in a lot of pain, and it's their only response. And so a loved one going through dying can do the same thing, but it's disconcerting. What I'm reading about these signs is that it could be days, weeks, long weeks, short months, but that it's Dad's journey, and he has a lot of control over what happens. His nephew's wedding is this weekend. He's not going to do anything to disrupt his baby sister's event. And I don't know after that. Holidays have always been my mom's favorite times, but I just can't see him having to struggle through the next, what is it, almost November, so 2 months. I don't think I want to go through the next 2 months watching him struggle. I think that'd make the holidays worse, but what do I know? We haven't been here before. Yesterday was the first time my dad looked at my mom and said, "After all this time, I don't think you've told me your name." And that was really, wow. She handled it really well because she truly believes that he does know her, and I think after all of this time, I know that he will always know me too. But for some reason, when this diagnosis first came up, that was my first fear. What if he doesn't know my name? All I could think was that Eric Clapton song about his 4-year-old that fell out of the window. Well, you know my name if we're in heaven, and I know that he will know me, but something about that feels so personal and tender, to think that your dad forgets who you are. He won't. He might right here, right now for a minute, but he won't ever. I don't believe in that kind of finality in life. I think we go on it for eternity, and he's gonna know me. But this is rough, rough. We took back our 24-year-old's senior citizen dog last month because he's going to be having a full-time job, and the dog needs full attention or more attention. And this dog's latched onto me like I need it. And I didn't know I needed it, but I do, and it's been awesome. I keep looking over here at him. He's in the woods over here. God, I mean, I don't know. I didn't grow up with dogs. I've only had them recently in my life, like the last dozen years. I just didn't know how awesome they could be. He seems to really know that I need the extra love. He naps with me when I nap, and he follows me around, and he's the most excited when I come home, and he's a golden doodle. God, I hate that name. He's old school. We got him before anybody knew what they were. He was cheap ass, like $250. God, I know he's not a rescue. Please don't come after me. We had to have a non-shedding dog, and again, he was practically a mutt back in the day. He's 13 years old. Anyway, who cares? He loves me, and I've needed that, which is really strange. He's great for our pup, who's 3.5, and I'm saying ridiculously random things. Mainly, we're just in this betwixt and between, which again brings me back to that word bardo, which was really a calming word. I didn't think it would be so until I looked it up. But we're just waiting for rebirth, which is so much more encouraging than death. We're in the death. We're waiting for the resolution of hope. We have hope. Because he will be healed, not the way we would have wished maybe when this diagnosis came down. I spent time writing letters to researchers all over the globe, like I was going to pull a stupid Meredith Grey on Grey's Anatomy, and really they were going to break some protocol and ruin their careers for me by fitting my dad into some last-minute trial that was going to save him. Of course that didn't happen, but I got back several letters from people who were so empathetic and in those research trials because they had loved ones with this very disease. And somehow that was comforting, just to hear back that they were working on what they were working on because they got it. And they didn't seem at all surprised that I was reaching out in that way. They must get those kind of letters. I'm not the only one who feels like maybe she can move a mountain if necessary. I mean, I was raised that way. Dad always said, you just go do it, get it done. You're the master of your future. It's a little bit misleading. You have a lot of control, but you really aren't the master. Maybe you don't even have a lot of control. But I'm a Gen Xer. When I was a teenager, Reagan had the economy booming. Of course, we're all screwed now, but if you're a Gen Xer as a teenager, everything was really wide open. Everything was just going to work out. You know, my kids now don't understand that at all. How do you say that? How do you have any confidence going to bed at night that that's the case? And I'm beginning to understand how they feel, but it's taken me a while because all of my youth was, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. Interest rates are great. Loans are available. Business is great. My dad was a captain for Delta for 30 years, or not the whole time, but, you know, career pilot with Delta, and that's a fat living. My mom stayed home. We were really lucky, very privileged. So, I'm a spoiled bitch. I admit it. And, you know, had that kind of relationship with my dad that, well, I'm not going to say makes this especially tough. Everybody's loss is tough. I'm not special. I mean, they told me I was special, but Dad always said I was special. But that's because I'm his kid. That's all that is. And maybe that's why that makes us sad too. Because sometimes nobody else sees you the way somebody like your dad sees you, and you know that when they're gone, that's gone. It's just a major passage that you think maybe is never coming for you, but of course it is. You're just another human on the planet. But you're sharing something that everybody else has to go through too. So that's it, I think, for today. That gets a few things off my chest. I don't know what date it is, the 20th or the 21st, maybe the 22nd of October. The chickens are molting. They're not laying very many eggs. I'm just looking at feathers all over the place. If you're going through anything like this, as much peace to you as I can pass on. Thanks.